This is a really exciting episode, a part of our Astro 201 series. And today it's all about the moon. So KP is going to walk us through everything we know about the moon.
The
KP?
moon.
The moon.
Yes, and we have Ashley Abubakar with us, someone I consider one of like the most lunar people in my life, and also someone I met through the Tarot Book Club where I met Chelsea. So we have this bond. Literally, we call ourselves the Coven, to the point where what we can tell each other's moods just by the language that we're using and like the cadence of our language in the text threads. So I think that like the three of us are the perfect people to talk about the experience of our moon placements, signs, and cue each other up for like, well, what about that one time? Do you feel like that's your Sagittarius moon or something like that? So that's one reason why Ashley's here. She's also the founder of Moonshadow, which is a shadow work community that works in the rhythm of the moon. So I call you a lunar astrologer for that reason as well. Chelsea also is a very lunar astrologer, being a Cancer sun and having a Leo rising. There's just like so much luminary energy with her. So I think that the three of us are perfect for this. And I have a Cancer moon, which is where the moon is at home. Okay, so that's where we're going to begin. I want to ask kind of questions right up front about observations of the moon, knowing that Chelsea is the person who sends me pictures of the moon the most, and knowing that Ashley, yeah, you're like, in my whole lifetime, I've never received more moon images from anyone else. Love that. Like you're literally using your eyes to observe.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And Ashley like structures her business in life around new moon and full moons. So thinking about observations, like when you're looking at the night sky and the moon is doing something, like do you have memories or experiences or comments about observing the moon with your naked eye?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm like, how does this work? Do I pass the torch? Do I go?
Yeah.
Great. Good thing you can edit this. I have always looked to the moon for a type of peace and quiet and serenity, and almost like a compass back home, because I think growing up where I grew up and finding myself in the situations I did even as a young adult, I needed those moments of quiet. KP knows a lot about my family structure and their star signs, and the first thing she said was, that must have been a very loud household. And I said in certain ways, sometimes it was like stoically quiet, and some days it was just like, I don't even have a description. Anyways, so I've always, as long as I can remember, always looked to the moon to find that moment of like back to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Similarly, I feel like I've probably always noticed the moon ever since I was a young person, but only now do I have maybe more fondness or tenderness for it. And I'm just like always in awe. And maybe that's, maybe everyone is, because it's the, closest thing to us that we can see in the sky. Sometimes I'll just be out about, like maybe during daytime hours, I'll just be like outside and just like through the very, very, very corner of my eye, I'll like something will catch and I'll be like, what's that? And I'll always like be able to find the moon. It's like that little sliver of whatever phase it's in will always catch my eye no matter what. Even, and during the day, it's like, it's not lit up. It's like barely kind of noticeable. You can easily miss it. It could, blend in with the clouds sometimes. But for some reason, my eyes can always find it, and I'll do a double take. I'll be like, oh, there's the moon. And it's just like, wink, hey moon. Yeah, I guess the word I'm coming back to is awe. I have come to developing this relationship of drawing down the moon, and sometimes on a full moon, the placement of my altar that's in a window, kind of in my windowsill in my living room looking out towards the neighborhood. Sometimes I'll sit down and it'll just be like the perfect angle that I can sit at my altar and the moon is directly right above my face. And I'm like, in those moments, I just feel like deep kinship and yeah, just that sacred connection of like it's talking to me, it's giving me messages, I'm listening. And
Yeah.
yeah, those moments just always bring a tear to my eye.
Do you ever look at where the moon is in the sky when it's above, like in sight of your altar?
I haven't. Should I?
Mm,
I'm curious.
that's interesting. I know when you were
It's
talking.
usually full moons. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
I was thinking that it's like I think about the moon in the data form so often, but I it just clicked with me that the sliver moons or the first and third quarter moons are nearer to the horizon and the full moon is higher up in the sky at night. It just clicked with me and the new moon is technically underneath us because it's on the other side.
Yeah.
right.
So like observing that helps me know, oh, like I if I as the astrologer know that the new moon was in Taurus, then the first quarter moon is going to be what's the next fixed sign? Leo.
Oh, you're so
So then it's
smart.
going to
Mm.
be yeah, that's what I think of.
Ah,
I got the image as a kid. My dad would call the sliver moons God's fingernail, like fingernail clippings.
Yes.
mhm,
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think a lot
mhm.
of my observant experiences have a lot to do with my dad and my mom, like who like would
Mm,
point out things to me growing up, like, oh, that is true that leaves fall in the autumn, or like whatever that is when it comes to nature, and then there are just like laws of these patterns, right?
mhm.
Mm.
So yeah, the sliver moon is God's fingernail. Like God is always grooming at the first or third quarter moon.
That's cute.
Yeah. And actually, like, I do a lot of my personal grooming kind of on purpose at the third and or the first and the third quarter moon. Um,
Mm,
first,
mm,
the new moon and the full moon are my deep clean days. As like a energetic hygiene and also just like physical hygiene. At least twice a month, I have deep cleans, and then the first and third quarter moons, I do like beauty grooming, basically. Like
mm.
Oh.
the eyebrow stuff, like the things that
Like cut
only
your hair?
I
No.
actually haven't thought about that, but I heard that. I don't know if this is true. I heard that if
Okay.
you cut your hair at a first quarter moon, it'll grow faster.
Yeah.
Where if you
Oh.
cut your hair at a third quarter moon, it won't grow as fast because it's like at the waning parts, right?
Oh,
And it's the
that
same
makes
with
sense.
gardening. If you plant
Yeah.
seeds at the first quarter moon, they will grow faster than if you plant them later on in the
Yeah.
cycle.
Mm.
Yeah. Makes sense.
See,
Yeah.
that's what I love so much about the phases of the moon, too. I feel like it's just like so feminine. Like we go through so many phases all the time.
Mhm.
And just you talking about that makes me think of another reason why I always attract to the moon is because we're constantly changing. And so is she. And it like
Mhm.
Yeah.
reminds me to be gentle when I'm like pissed off at a phase or
Yeah. This
going
too
through a
shall
Yeah.
moment.
pass.
Yeah. Like we're
Yeah.
going to keep moving.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
Which
always think
also
too
was
that
so well, I was gonna say, as I was reading the Moon chapter in the post-colonial book, I was surprised to hear, but it makes sense to me that the associations with the moon and femininity is a modern construction.
yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense, right? The cycle, the 28-day cycle, like, of course.
Yeah.
But it's historically been like a very masculine entity and
Hmm.
associated with masculinity, which I was just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
fascinating."
Material life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
it wasn't
also,
until, like, Jung and, Robert Graves kind of started associating it with, yeah, femininity and, like, these softer qualities.
yeah.
Yeah.
And was it the Babylonian gods associated with the moon were all male? And then later in the Greek Roman myth world, it was switched to like femme gods, the
Mm.
Diana, what were the other ones? Hecate. I
Yes.
forgot the maiden.
Uh,
Anyway,
Mm.
yeah, so it's like the switching of gender association across time is really
mhm.
interesting. But
Mhm.
but like the moon cycle lining up with menstruation cycles.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Saturn's also has this, like, 20 not 28 days, or d is it 28 days? 'Cause they also talked about, like, the Saturn-Moon connection as their
Yeah.
Mm.
opposites, right? Like, Saturn rules Capricorn, Moon rules Cancer, and they both have this 28-day thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Saturn is the 28-year
28-year.
cycle. And it's like, it's the 28 and some change is true for
Yeah.
the moon too. Like, it's not a 28-day clean cycle. It's like
Yeah.
28.3 or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's like the same exact number for years for Saturn, which is like wild and perfect and
Right.
awe-inspiring to me that these two planets would move at the same number but different
Yeah.
integers or whatever the word is. Yeah.
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 Totally.
I have a
Mhm.
blurt. Last night, Marty and I were watching Titanic, and
Uh-huh.
he was doing his regular thing while he watched movies. He's like very vocal about like, this doesn't make sense. This is shitty. This shot sucks. Like that kind of stuff. I love it. He's a filmmaker. He's actively, critically watching something. And I was just thinking about the moon. And I was like, what if the moon was new and that's why they didn't see the iceberg because there wasn't any lunar light? And I looked it up and
Oh,
it was a new moon. I was like, cool.
Whoa.
that makes a lot more sense, though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There were a lot of
Wow.
things that went wrong. Like they were going too fast,
Yeah.
like all these things. But yeah, if it was a full
Wow.
moon, they might have had more time to redirect.
Wow. Don't sail on a new moon.
Yeah, and I wonder if that is
Yeah.
something about like navigating principles. Like if we're gonna
I
set
know.
or like we're gonna be in a really rocky part of the ocean, it's gonna be a full moon on purpose. Maybe
So
that's
Yeah.
something that they
interesting.
think about.
Yeah.
I know people who spend a year sailing. I should ask them.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Like they make sure they're docked
Yeah.
somewhere on a
Yeah.
new moon because it's safer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really
Right.
good point.
Yeah. So that's my
Mm.
blurt about like observing things in a practical way to prevent massive death.
Fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, moving on from observations of the moon.
Mhm.
Um Okay, so I know your charts very, very well at this point. I
Mhm.
might be able to like say the degrees of your major placements.
Mhm.
So I'll just say out loud that Ashley has a Sagittarius moon in the 4th house, and your
Mm.
Sagittarius moon is making one major aspect. We can talk about other aspects, but that's modern astrology. But there's one aspect to your chart ruler, Mercury in Libra. That's
Mm.
interesting to me for a lot of reasons that we can touch on. But basically, your moon is in conversation in like a really positive or supportive, I shouldn't say positive, supportive conversation with Mercury. So we
Cool.
can assume a little bit about that like your ability to express your emotional state is maybe stronger than other people's, even with your moon being in the most private, like darkest part. It's not the darkest, but a dark house and the most private house in the 4th. That makes sense. So like the
Mm.
bottom of your chart, usually when there's a moon in the 4th house, the bottom of the chart, it is more difficult for people to express how they're feeling because
Uh-huh.
it's so like interior.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Does that resonate though with you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the older I've gotten in the profession, like, is it really a profession that I've decided to take has helped me, I think, communicate my feelings a lot more. But I would say as a child, I was very quiet and very private and had a
Mm.
hard time. Now I think I can communicate a lot better, but a lot of times that fiery Sag moon could come out a little too much at times, but I'd definitely that's so interesting. I did not know that my moon was in conversation with Libra or with my Mercury in Libra.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
And Sagittarius and Libra are compatible signs in that they're both considered yang or masculine in heavy quotes signs. So they have
Uh-huh.
a more connected relationship than say like if your Mercury was in Scorpio and your moon was in Sagittarius, they wouldn't have as much of a connection for various reasons, including geometry, element, that kind of stuff. But having Mercury in Libra also helps make your emotions relational or fair, diplomatic,
Mm.
where Sagittarius is not necessarily diplomatic, but Sagittarius is fair. They're like Sagittarius energy really cares about the truth and
Mm.
ethics. So they're really compatible in that way. So even if you're like your fire, your like maybe hair trigger experience in any way is coming out, you still have that Mercury to help you remind the Sagittarius energy, we're here for fairness and truth.
Mm, that definitely feels right. You know me. This is like every conversation I have with Barry. It's like 2 minutes of dead silence because I'm like, huh. Like soaking that in and reflecting on like,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah, I think that absolutely makes a lot of sense. I definitely can find a lot of balance in a lot of ways I'm feeling, which I think sometimes can be difficult too, because then I'm constantly like trying to figure out what side of the scale. And
Yeah.
like I said, every now and then I do have these moments that feel a lot more fiery, but then I always have that reflective moment of like, okay, but why am I feeling this way? Is that fair? Is that right? Am I out of line? Are they out of line? And then, like, yeah. So it's kind of interesting that you're bringing that up because I do feel like
Yeah.
that's a major theme in my life.
What I also know
Mm.
about you being a friend, is that you require a lot of alone time to like get
Mm,
to center. I think
mhm.
maybe that's how you'd say that. And
Yeah.
having moon in the fourth house, yeah, that would require much more safe, quiet interior time than other moon placements like Chelsea's first house moon or my seventh house moon. And we'll get to the
Yeah.
second part very soon, but does that
That's definitely I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's where some people struggle with me maybe at times too, or where I struggle with others, especially my current romantic partnership, is that after a moment or maybe a disagreement or feelings, I require time to reflect and think, and I can't always respond or give a response that somebody's seeking or wanting. And if I do, it's probably going to be bullshit.
Uh-huh.
So I definitely need that moment to be like, okay, kind of like what I just said. When you give me feedback, I need like 2 minutes to download it.
yeah,
And
Uh-huh.
then I can't process that quick.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think this is really important to point out because normally if we're talking about a Sagittarius moon, that person, if we're just have that information, nothing else, we could assume the Sagittarius moon like acts and feels quickly because of that fire energy. But that placement, the house placement, it changes everything. And the conversation that it's having changes everything. The last thing I want to say before we move to Chelsea's chart is that I just realized something I did not notice before. And it's like one of the coolest things. And all three of us have it too in our chart. It's pretty rare. You have a mutual reception between two planets, meaning that you have two planets in each other's signs. And do you want to say, Chelsea, how you describe a mutual reception in pop culture?
Yes. The most supportive partnership, Matt and Ben.
And I was like, when you said that to me, I was like, holy shit, that's a mutual reception.
That helps make so much more sense of this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Because we were like,
Matt
what
and
what is like a
Ben.
duo you can think of or a partnership you can think of where it's like totally equal? Like they're each supporting each other. Y-
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
That's
they can
hilarious. At
do
first I was like,
similar
wait, who's Matt
things.
and Ben? And I'm like, ah, Matt and Ben.
Damon and Affleck.
Yeah.
I
They can
mean, from
so
what we know of them, we don't really know. But anyway,
yeah.
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 The reason I think you brought that up is that I said that mutual receptions are really helpful when one of the planets is maybe suffering. The other planet can often support that planet in a difficult moment. So we're thinking
Mm.
about Ben Affleck's series of difficult moments in the public eye, right? What I know about Matt is that he's been his like
Right
friend,
guy. Yeah.
true
Mm.
friend, you know, his guy in those hard moments and like I'm sure in the happy moments too. So for you, you have Cancer, sorry, you have Jupiter in Cancer. That's
Mm.
Jupiter's exalted space. We've talked a lot
Oh,
about that because Jupiter is currently there in the 11th house. So the house of like networks, like-minded individuals, humanitarian efforts, which I know is really important to you. And you have the moon in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is ruled by
Mm.
Jupiter. So whenever there's a difficult moment with the moon or with Jupiter, they will be supporting each other we could say positive ways. In astrology, I try not to say positive and negative because it's like time
bad.
magic. You know, it's like
Mm.
you make of what the events are your perspective. But I think that's really interesting to think about, especially since I feel like you're an artist. I'm doing the kind of research right now that artists who have mutual receptions, that mutual reception is how their audience feels their energy, whether they
Mm.
that. Chelsea has the moon and Leo, or moon and sun in mutual reception. I have Venus and Mars in mutual reception. And I
Mm.
usually write breakup stories, and Chelsea is full of life and light, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
contemplation, the moon stuff. So with your artist approach to your life, I see the way that you create relationships and community and your introspection, like your ability to really consider what is happening inside of you as that like energetic signature that people can sense from you, whether they're aware of it or not. And I think that is
Mm.
very true, not just because I'm looking at a chart, not just because I'm trying to make my research make sense.
No, that definitely sticks out to me because I think, having my moon in a dark spot, what do we call it? Dark sign?
It's
Dark
one of the
placement?
dark houses.
Dark placement. Yeah, dark
Mhm.
houses. I do love my isolation. I love my time alone, but I do find a lot of reprieve or like a lot of good moments in community. So having that Jupiter in Cancer, it's interesting. It feels like so opposite, but very complementary. So hearing you say that actually helps make a lot more sense of my life. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
as someone who loves to isolate, I love that I'm trying to build a huge community of shadow work fanatics. So
Right.
it's
Also a community of people who
weird.
people tend to go inward, right? So it's like,
Totally.
yeah.
It's like this, yeah, yeah, okay, all right. I see
Yeah.
how this is working.
So another element of a mutual reception in whole sign, the Hellenistic tradition that I use, it means that your fourth house and your 11th house are inextricably linked. So we can say that whatever Jupiter is doing in the sky, it always is bringing back themes to the fourth house and the 11th house, as well as your Pisces house, which is your seventh. And we can talk about that on another episode.
Yeah, don't
And then
overload me.
whatever the moon is doing a lot of things all the time, right? It's like the fastest moving astrological planet.
Right.
And every eclipse is pulling in the moon and the sun. So every time there's an eclipse, every time there's a lunation, your 11th house of like-minded individuals is also being pulled into those themes, no matter what, at varying degrees,
Mm.
right? So that's something to think about. And similarly for Chelsea, your mutual reception that is with the moon and the sun, it's always going to bring themes of the self and the like collective unconscious together all the time, which is another reason why I think it's like perfect that you're a therapist
Mm.
and an artist. Like you're very present and you're supporting the collective unconscious. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. So
Sure.
let's move to Chelsea's listeners of the pod are very intimate with Chelsea's heart chart, I would say. With
Ooh,
Chelsea's heart. Chelsea's
I love
heart.
Chelsea's heart.
Yeah. So Chelsea's has a moon in Leo in the first house in the Hellenistic
Mm.
tradition. In Placidus, you have moon, sun, and Mars in the 12th. But in the
Yeah.
Hellenistic tradition, the whole sign, your moon is in the first, your sun is in the 12th.
Which one's better?
Mm.
Just kidding.
You say which one's better?
Yeah.
I have to pick.
Depends what day.
Yeah.
Depends on the
Which one should
day.
I go with? Which one? Yeah. Which one sounds better?
Well,
First.
I will stick to my commitment for now until I change it
Okay.
in 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say we're doing whole sign Hellenistic tradition. You have
Oh,
a two
I'm
degrees-
just talking about my moon. Which is a better placement for my moon?
Oh, there's no better.
I
There's
knew
no
it.
better.
I know. I'm being such a
different.
brat by
I'm
making you choose.
picking. I said first.
Okay.
So
Well, we do love a moon in an angular house, which the three of us have. So I didn't say that about you, Ashley, is that there's 4 houses in the birth chart that are considered angular or like kind of like bedrocks, or what's the best word? There's like keystones, I guess, of the chart. The first house
Mm.
where Chelsea's moon is the self. The 7th house, the opposite house, is the other. That's where my moon is. The bottom is your foundation. The top is where you're going in this world, basically. And you have the moon at the bottom keystone.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So that's important.
It is, yeah. When you have an angular planet, there's just like there's a greater emphasis on that planet in your life in general. And like we could say that about a
Mm.
lot of different aspects of a birth chart, but it is a really significant thing to look where if you have planets in the first, fourth, seventh, or 10th house, that means just they're so present in the way that your life is going. Okay, so your moon is in the first. A moon in the first angular house has a lot to do with, okay, if we're thinking about the body in this lifetime, we can look at the moon and Mars, and we can look at a lot of other planets as well. But the moon is like your homeostasis, your ability to process and absorb, your ability to get to center, circadian rhythms, things that the body needs to keep going, basically like maintenance kind of energy when it comes to the body. And so many different ways that we move or use our body are more moony than Marsy. And then also Mars and Moon can work together for activities like yoga or weightlifting, sex, if that's what your Moon and your Mars needs for your body. Anyway, so your Moon is in the first house of the self, the desire, the reason you're here, the first breath. So that to me says really quickly that your ability to get to center or a place of homeostasis is either much stronger than other people's, or it's much more necessary for you to focus on that. Does that feel right?
Necessary in what way?
I
Like it's being like
suppose
that's something's being tested and it's necessary that I have to focus on it?
that could be, or it's more like, let's say you have allergies. So it may be that like you must be really careful about your allergies in order to feel centered. It really depends on the moon's sign and any aspects the moon is making. But I brought up, it's like you're either really great at it or it's just really front of mind and conscious because we have varied experiences throughout our lifespan and throughout
Mhm.
all of us as different individuals, right?
Mhm.
So we can't just say like a moon in the first house means like you fucking rock, you're so hot. Like it's not always gonna be like that. Though I know that is true about you.
I mean, we can say that. And I think my body journey has been, I don't have to go into too much of it, but it's been difficult
Mhm.
in terms of like just my perception of my body and taking in, culture and construct and everything that we have to take in being in bodies, being in a Western culture. So
Yeah,
all of that to say it's been wild. Like I'm sure most people in female bodies have experienced, male bodies too, I'm sure, but it's, we grew up in the 90s, or I grew up in the 90s
yeah,
during a time when we were just inundated with so many images and like, all of the like
for real.
extreme thinness was, yeah, the Kate Mosses were so popular. Like, I don't have to explain
Yeah.
it here. We all know what I'm talking about. And
Yeah,
yeah, so all of that has been a journey for sure of my conscious and subconscious taking in a lot of messages and being really, really hard on my body.
yeah,
So it's definitely been a journey. And now I feel so grateful and a lot more love around my body. And I also just feel like I'm very, very active. Like I use my body a lot and it feels wonderful to do that. And I'm also just grateful I don't really have that many body issues, knock on wood. And I ask my body to do a lot. So I'm
yeah,
I'm not yeah, it's not usual for me to have like an ache or a pain or even fatigue. Like I have a lot of vitality there. So I'm really grateful for that. Maybe that
yeah.
is because it's first house. I don't know. I keep going.
It could
Energizer bunny.
be. It could be. There is also an element to being a Leo rising that like
Yeah.
you're ruled by the sun, which is like consistent energy, right? So I think there's an element there, but yeah, having the moon in the first house, like, yeah, your bodily experience would be more, yeah, present than let's say if Saturn was in your first house, then Saturn might be a little less connected to vitality
Mm,
in the body,
okay.
you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, it's actually so Alice Sparkly Cat, you mentioned the post-colonial astrology book that written by
Yeah.
Alice Sparkly Cat. They wrote an essay or maybe an email recently about or no, I think it was a tweet or something. And they said that people who have Saturn in the first house love to sit still and like look out the window. And I was like,
Really?
fuck, like that's so true. I have Saturn in the first house. So it's like, if you have a Leo, the
Really?
opposite of a Saturnical energy, Leo first house, you're much more active than a Saturn first house.
Well, I like to
Mm,
sit. I definitely am a cat, so I like to sit in the window and look outside,
Yeah.
but I'm, like, bouncing my leg. Like, I'm right now like, I have restless
yeah.
leg syndrome, like, as I'm sitting here right now. So it's like I'm sitting, but I'm not really sitting still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I have to be moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like,
Uh,
I'm such so much more a computer person. I love to just to do it, like, all day, and, like, you must
mm.
be out in the world, like, a
I
computer
know.
person, and it makes me wonder, like, maybe I should go out in the world.
Yeah, I've complained to
Uh,
you many times about that. Like, if I have to stay home and work for, like, 8 hours,
uh,
I go crazy. I have to get out of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I would say that is a pretty common experience for moon in the first house, for sure.
Really?
Mm,
Yeah.
huh.
Depending, like, if it's moon in Capricorn or moon in Aquarius in the first house, I think that's a little bit different, but we'd have to look at the aspects. So, speaking of aspects, your moon has a few more conversations than Ashley's moon does.
Mhm.
So let's be precise. You have a square, almost an exact square to Pluto in Scorpio in the fourth house. And then you also have the moon conjunct the sun and Mars in the 12th house in Cancer. So there's, I would say, three conversations going on. And also your Mars and Sun are squaring Pluto. So maybe there's one conversation being had, and there's the team of the Sun, Moon, and Mars in not contentious, but a more difficult conversation with the concept of power and like what is unsaid in that fourth house. Does that
Mm.
track anything for you? Make you think of anything?
Oh, wait, because Pluto's in the 4th? Is that what yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Wait, can repeat the question?
Yeah. Okay. So I just pointed out that
I'm like, I don't know if I'm tracking.
your moon, sun, and Mars are basically on a team together because they're conjunct. They're
Uh,
within enough proximity that they're like almost on top of each other. They're a little bit
okay.
further apart, but
Yeah.
let's say that they're kind of on one side of the room and they're having a, let's say, not neutral conversation with Pluto across the room in what we call a square. And it doesn't mean it has to be bad. And like I've told both of you that people who have lots of squares in their birth chart are the most motivated people on this planet and they do cool shit. It is very interesting to me that you're a therapist and there's this conversation with Pluto in the house of the interior as well. So that's a very clear connection I can make is that your
Mm,
career, the way you live your life is always contemplating or introspecting in some way.
Mm,
Yeah. So I just wanted to point that out that that's the conversation being had with your moon. And Pluto is a planet that is not talked about in Hellenistic astrology because we didn't know Pluto existed,
mm,
telescopes. But a lot of Hellenistic astrologers living today do talk about Pluto as that experience of humanity knowing that there's a hierarchy or there's an element of power differential and not necessarily knowing where it's coming from or what's happening with it. So this is
hmm.
kind of element of like not being able to express what's happening, but we all can feel it. Like cishet white men are in
yeah,
power. We
yeah.
don't necessarily have discrete evidence for like every moment, right? But we can all feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck the patriarchy. I'm just, I'm just kidding.
So that could be
Edit that out.
something that is conceptually coming up a lot. It's just the concept of power or death, but death not in the like, we're going to die someday, our bodies are aging. It's death in the way that like we can't explain it. Like
Mhm.
we have no idea what
Mm,
happened. So there's this like grand anxiety maybe or dread or not dread. That's more Saturn energy.
mm,
Yeah, there's like this grand instinctual response to the reality that we don't get to experience what's after.
mm.
Oh,
So that could be something that your body is very aware of because of the moon
yeah.
and also Mars. I
Yeah.
think also your chart, it's more difficult to talk about the moon because of the Pluto energy, the what cannot be said, and also
Oh,
the 12th house energy, your sun and moon there, like it's more difficult to access that information by language, which is what we talked about with Lisa.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Because when I was doing your meditation last night, I was having such a hard time. And I was in my thinking brain and I was thinking, and you're asking so many beautiful questions and really trying to get in there. And I was having such a hard time. Like I end up like not really getting that much info.
Yeah.
And I was getting a blank, and then I think my thinking mind kind of jumped in to try to fill in the cracks. And it was like, oh, should we go here? Should we go there? Is it that? Is it that? Is it that? And I was like, this isn't working. I'm not getting any info. And I was like, that's weird. Like it usually comes to me right away, but like nothing was coming to me. And I was like, is it
Yeah.
just not wanting to come to me? Like, so I'll do it again and see what happens. But I don't know if you have any thoughts about that. If it just didn't want, if it was like, I'm in the shadows, don't ask me.
I have a lot of thoughts actually.
Okay, tell me.
Okay, so there's something else I'm seeing in your chart right now is that so like Ashley had the moon in conversation, or sorry, Mercury in conversation with her moon. Your Mercury is far enough away from your moon, still in the same sign, but far enough away where they're not able to talk to each other directly. So that's one
Oh,
element. And also that Mercury, your Mercury in Leo, is my God, actually 1 second away from being exact, which is wild. So same degree, 1 second away, in conversation with Saturn, which means that
oh,
Saturn is making it more difficult for you to express yourself.
oh.
So we have
Mm.
Mercury in a tense conversation with Saturn, and what Saturn does is it influences the faster moving planet more, and Saturn slows things down, or Saturn things more
Mm.
difficult, or Saturn requires a lot more responsibility before things are said, which I
Uh,
know is true about you. You're very careful with your language.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when like,
It's because except when I curse.
yeah, yeah. And that makes sense, especially like I would assume before you were 30, it would have been more difficult for you to feel like you're speaking ethically or carefully. After 30, it's getting easier because you've practiced so much.
Yeah, true.
So that's happening.
Mm.
And when you're doing these experiential, like meeting your moon things, that means the moon has less access to expressing themselves. I want to kind of be careful about saying that because the moon is a pre-verbal experience. The moon often expresses themselves in the body without language. And then
Yeah.
also you're having this experience of like your language not giving you all access to things.
Yeah.
So I think
Mm.
that's happening. Uh,
Yeah.
The other thing I think is really interesting is that when you met your Venus, she
Yeah.
was like right there. She was doing the leading. She was talking, like it was very clear. And
Yeah.
your Venus is a very clear entity figure in your chart.
Yeah.
Like has a
Mm.
lot of support out in the open.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to say about that is that your
So
moon
true.
just might take more time to
Mm.
find ways to communicate with you, where Ashley
Mm.
might have a really quick experience. I don't know. I don't want to lead that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I could also share my
I did
experience
it
when I
too.
you did it?
Your meet your moon.
Yeah, you should share.
Uh,
Sure.
No, I feel like what you just said was pretty spot on. I feel like it's really easy for me to have a conversation with my moon.
Mm.
I feel like there's this weird tug and pull though of like there is a fieriness about my moon,
Mhm.
but it's very like um it almost feels like a built-in best friend or like an imaginary best friend for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like I haven't done all the planets, so I'm sure there's planets I'm going to really struggle with connecting, but the moon just felt like I just chat with her all the time. So when I see her,
Mhm.
when Chelsea was talking about seeing the moon in the sky, I instantly thought of the same thing. Every time I see the moon, I'm like, "Hey, what's up? Hey girl.
Mm.
Like, how's it going tonight? You look beautiful." So it almost just feels like I'm talking to one of you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
is that what you wanted to know? Is there something more?
I mean, is there anything else you want to share? Like what happened? What happened in the meditation?
Well, I'm like trying to go back there. So for me, it was kind of like, you know how I met my Mars,
Hmm.
right? That's who I met? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Postman.
the postman, the sexy postman. With the moon, it was like, so I do a lot of shadow work, as you guys know. And for me, the moon felt like my superior, or like this shadow that I haven't quite gotten to yet. Like she's dressed a little bit like Stevie Nicks, and she sits
Ooh.
in a really nice office and a really like one of the top floors of this huge building in like New York City, or some big city. I don't really know what city. But she's always this shadow that I'm aspiring to be. And sometimes I have this ability to connect with her, and I'm always like, how do I get there? Um, and I felt like in this moment that the moon was that shadow.
Mm.
So, like, she's always there, but having the confidence to access her and know that she's part of me is, I think, where I'm still trying to define, or
Yeah.
trying to really connect with. So, like, I'm close with
Mhm.
her, but I haven't quite reached her.
Mm.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. Of course, the moon is Stevie Nicks for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, also, that does not feel like a Sagittarius moon, like free
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
crescent,
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
dark.
Little dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think when you were talking about like the go Chelsea, there's something with my moon too that makes me a little more. I mean, KP, I think we've talked about it, like my need to run a marathon, or my need
Mhm.
to do things like that really
Mm.
is built into that. And
Mhm.
like running a marathon is very isolating, but hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Helps me
Mhm.
process those feelings and maybe have that conversation with Mercury and Libra.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
I mean, having fire moons, both of you, I would say there is much more like um activity could be the word, but like vitality or like needing to
Mhm.
express energy outward. If
Mhm.
we're just looking at the sign that your moon is in, yeah, fire signs need that. Like an
Mhm.
Aries moon, 100% needs to exercise every day. Like I would say that pretty confidently, unless they're conjunct Saturn, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for fire moons, like, I mean, just, yeah, looking at like, okay, we both have fire moons. Like, you could have an assumption about that, right? But so much changes because of where it's placed and
Mm.
the other things aspecting it too. Like,
Yeah.
right? Because you could say like, "Oh, I have a fire moon in the first house." Like, people could probably think a lot of things about that, right?
Yeah.
And it like, yeah, it's just not like you said, there isn't a lot of language for it,
Yeah.
which may be different for other people who would have a fire moon in the first house, right?
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, it's
Interesting.
like every new bit of information you get about your moon placement, the more the more it feels individual. And like you can
Mm.
check the information against your experience too. And like if something does not land, then I would keep looking further. Like that's how confident I
Yeah.
am about moon placements specifically, but astrology is like something's not landing, then there is a complicating factor, like Pluto squaring the moon in the first. If we
Yeah.
didn't bring up
Mm.
Pluto, we can be like, yeah, Leo moon in the first, like you're exuberant, you're lively, like you've been like all these things. But then like you talk about Mars and Pluto in relationship to the moon, and there's so much more like emotional complexity and layers to that experience than if it was just a Leo moon in the first. Leo moon
Mm.
in the first, not in conversation with any other planet too, would be a completely different life experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Mm.
And if you didn't have that mutual reception with your sun in the 12th,
Yeah.
your moon experience would be completely different. So, yeah.
Mm.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about air moons and then maybe some water moons?
Yeah.
Mm.
Air moons. So that's Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. All of them are ruled by different planets. So
Mhm.
Gemini is ruled by
Mhm.
Mercury. So a Gemini moon. Do we know someone with a Gemini moon? No. We know someone with a Virgo moon.
Oh, I have one friend. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gemini moon is the quickest moving air moon because
Mhm.
Mercury is the quickest
Mm.
moving of the three ruling planets. The Libra moon is maybe medium speed,
Uh-huh.
requires so much calm, balance, and homeostasis thinking. I'm married to a Libra moon. We have a really close friend, three of us, that is married to a Libra moon, and they require a very peaceful home. Um,
Oh,
and it's not necessarily has to be quiet. I think quiet helps because when you have an air moon, your intellect or language is so much more important to your body's experience. So that when there's too much, maybe like too many TVs on, like we were talking actually
yeah.
yesterday, that might be really overwhelming for someone who is in that languaging space often with their body.
Mm.
I mean, your partner is like, okay, bedtime at 8, everyone lights out, quiet
Yeah,
time, right?
we're a headphones household too. Like very much to respect his peace, I have to wear headphones, and I'm fine with that. The Aquarius, the last air sign, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. So Aquarius moons tend to be they need so much more spaciousness and ease in time in order to process their bodily experience or their emotions, that kind of thing. So I
Mhm,
think it's really important to think about what planet rules the sign to
mhm,
help you think about that moon placement. But in general, air sign moons are the languaging moons. Maybe
mhm,
that means that they like to process their emotions or make their body feel better when they're literally in conversation with someone else or reading, something like that. That's like the basics. That's the Google 101 with air sign moons. We talked about fire moons enough. We didn't talk about Aries. Well, we did Aries moon. Okay. Um, Earth
Water
moons.
balloons. Oh, Earth moons,
mm.
yeah, true. Forgot
Earth
about Earth.
moon. Forgot about
Hey, that's Zane's moon sign.
yeah,
Can't
Love
yeah.
forget.
that.
In
Love that.
Corey's, so the
Yeah.
Yes.
first Earth moon is Taurus moon, Virgo moon, and then Capricorn moon. And it's pretty similar actually. So Capricorn moon ruled by Saturn, they also need a lot of space. Maybe isolation is a good word, in order to process things. They might need a lot more time too to process things because Saturn is the planet of time, like time in the way that Americans think of time. Mercury is also a planet of time in a different way. In the way that like if you put focus on something, it can happen quickly. Or if you don't
Mm.
focus on
Mm,
something, it won't happen quickly. So it's that kind of concept of time. Anyway, so Taurus moon ruled by Venus, there is like a medium kind of tonality. They need just probably equal amount of isolation and like stimulation.
Mm.
They also really require things to feel comforting, beautiful Venusian stuff. And then Virgo moons are one of the fastest moons.
mm,
Even I feel like Gemini moons can language their ways into the bodily experience, but Virgo moons have like such a more precise mind
Mm.
that the body is like moving so fast with information coming in and out. So Virgo moons really need exercise and grounding experiences to exist.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something about that really quick?
Yeah, because your
So I
son.
have I have a son with a Virgo moon, and his dad and I both have Sag moons. So, what is one quick tip you could give to Sag parent or to Sag moon parent?
Number one, when he starts to speak and he's expressing the same thought over and over and over. This is not to say every Virgo moon has looping thoughts, but there is this
Mm,
element that like thoughts must be made material or physical in order to further the thought or move on to another thought.
Mm.
So if
Mm.
you see him mention something twice or three times, I would literally make that idea into Play-Doh, or I would make that idea into food. I would
mm,
do something that is very physical that can demonstrate the idea or the concern in the external material world so that he can see it, process it, and then move on.
Mm.
mm.
That's like such a basic thing to say, but I'm saying that to a mom. For an adult, like there's so many other strategies to work with a Virgo moon because the Virgo moon is such a powerful moon because there's that element of like being able to know what is happening everywhere around them and apply that knowledge to like practical material result. So like they are
Mm.
the most incredible. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like in love with Virgo energy right now, I guess. I'm like,
What? Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a Virgo.
yeah. Well, Virgo moons are like such beautiful caregivers and such
Oh.
Yeah,
beautiful minders of the world. Um,
Mm.
yeah. I think of
yeah,
Corey, and that's yeah. I
yeah,
definitely
Wow.
get that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's a
What's
good.
interesting about Corey is that I was like really into my yoga life for a while, and she's like, yoga's too boring for me. And now I'm like, yeah,
Really?
You have a Virgo moon. Yoga's way too slow for you. Like it's
Oh, that's funny.
yeah. So
So he's going to need to be like moving. It's probably why he was kicking the whole time in my belly. And now
Aw.
his legs never stop going like this.
he has a lot of movement. I'm saying that in air quotes, energy in his chart too. So yeah, he's either going to do it himself or he's going to need to be consistently moving in some way. That's Mercury energy. He has a lot of Gemini energy too. Okay, ending with
Keep going.
Capricorn. I talked about Capricorn. Okay,
Yeah.
the water
Water.
signs, the moon. The moon is very comfortable in water energy because the moon has a lot to do with absorption and kind of like floating into experience and not necessarily deciding how things are, but letting the experience happen, right? So
I always think of,
Yeah,
sorry,
go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, I always think of the moon with the tides in the ocean
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So water moons have like a more natural experience, I would say, with the moon. I personally have a Cancer moon. That's where the moon is at home. I don't know what I want to say about that. There's so much to say about a Cancer moon. Pisces moon is ruled by Jupiter. So Pisces moon love the way that they can get back into their body is like often philosophy or often being moved by the external world in that they see suffering. Their access to compassion is remarkable. So when they see suffering, they can feel their bodily experience more in a present way. Volunteering or offering your life as service is a really important way for people with a Pisces moon to get into their body. And I'll wrap up by saying, what's the other? Scorpio. Scorpio moon is considered the moon that is in fall. So where the moon does not like to be at all. I think that is bullshit, but we can talk about it. The Scorpio moon has such high intuition. I think because the Scorpio moon had to constantly question what was happening around them to the point that as they age, they get really good at knowing like intentions before they're expressed kind of thing. And that element also of being a water moon is that you're absorbing everything around you. So you're getting a lot of information and it's being processed through your body. So you have to be really careful. You have to be really careful about what's happening. And that's the Scorpio energy.
Wait,
Okay.
you kind of glossed over Cancer moon.
Yeah, I was just going to say
Cancer
that,
moon.
Chelsea.
Let's go back.
We might have to do a part two
You
because I
might.
have an unaspected Cancer moon. So my Cancer moon is in no conversation with another planet in my birth chart.
Yeah.
So I don't know if my experience is the best one to talk about because it's pretty different. The Cancer moon is, like all of what the moon does is like the changeability. Like every single moment, the moon is in a different face. So the Cancer moon is really skilled at going with that change, like constant changeability. So there's a consistency to the changing. So Cancer moon has this ability to take new information in the body and kind of go with it and move it in and out. That's not always true for Cancer moons who have more difficulty with finding language for that experience, especially in American culture. And I think I have to leave it there because we have to end our recording.
I'm like,
I think we
Yeah,
need to do
we do.
a part two.
Okay,
I
part
do
two.
too. This is
What do
so
you think?
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, part two. Next
I
week.
love hearing all of these aspects.
Because I feel like there's still more to say.
So much
Yeah.
more to say.
There's a lot to
Even
say.
though you're the one doing all the talking,
I know.
there's still
I'm like,
more for you to say.
I think
Yeah.
both of yours experience is really helpful because it's so different from my personal experience and it's nice to see how we're all very different. Yeah. So part two, we'll do part two. Everyone come back.
Yay! Part two.
Love y'all.
Okay, bye.
Love y'all.